Dr. Hae-jin Kim stared at her computer screen in the quiet laboratory of the Korean Space Research Institute. It was past midnight, but she couldn't look away from the strange numbers on her screen. The Mars atmosphere readings didn't make sense. She picked up her coffee cup and found it empty. This was her third cup today, but the mystery in front of her was too important to sleep. The data from the Mars rovers showed something impossible. Patterns in the atmosphere that couldn't have formed naturally. "Computer, run the analysis again," she said, rubbing her tired eyes. This would be the fifth time she checked the numbers. Each time, they showed the same thing. Mars' atmosphere had been changed on purpose, a very long time ago. The office door opened, and her research assistant, Do-Yun Lee, walked in with 2 fresh cups of coffee. "Dr. Kim, you're still here. It's almost 1 a.m. Look at this, Do-Yun," she said, pointing to the screen. "See these oxygen patterns? They're too regular. Natural processes don't make patterns like this." Do-Yun placed a coffee cup next to her and leaned in to look. His eyes widened as he studied the graphs. "But that would mean—" "Yes," Hae-jin said, taking a sip of the hot coffee. "Someone or something changed Mars' atmosphere millions of years ago. They did it on purpose." She pulled up another screen showing Earth's atmospheric patterns. "See how random Earth's patterns are? That's normal. But Mars—" She clicked back to the first screen. "Mars looks like it was engineered." Do-Yun sat down heavily in the chair next to her. "We need to tell Director Park." "At 1 a.m.? Hae-jin asked, but she was already reaching for her phone. This discovery was too big to wait until morning. 20 minutes later, Director Jae-ho Park walked into the lab, still wearing his house slippers. His hair was messy, but his eyes were alert as he looked at the data. "Show me everything," he said. Hae-jin pointed to different parts of the graph. "The oxygen and carbon dioxide levels change in perfect cycles. The nitrogen patterns follow mathematical sequences. Even the trace gases are distributed too evenly." She took a deep breath. "Director Park, someone rebuilt Mars' entire atmosphere, and they did it with incredible precision." The director was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked, "How long ago?" "Based on decay rates and pattern degradation, I estimate between 3 to 5 million years ago." Director Park sat down and folded his hands. "Dr. Kim, do you understand what this means? If you're right, we've just discovered evidence of an advanced civilization that existed in our solar system millions of years ago." "Yes," Hae-jin said quietly. "And they didn't just visit Mars. They transformed its entire atmosphere. The question is, why?" Do-Yun spoke up from his corner. "And where did they go?" The three of them sat in silence, staring at the computer screen. Outside the lab windows, the first light of dawn was appearing. None of them noticed. Their minds were millions of miles away, on a red planet with an impossible atmosphere that held secrets from millions of years ago. Director Park finally stood up. "Dr. Kim, I want you to lead this investigation. Find out everything you can about these patterns. Do-Yun, you'll assist her." He straightened his jacket. "And please, both of you go home and get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a very busy day." As Hae-jin gathered her things to leave, she took one last look at the graphs on her screen. In all her years of studying Mars, she never expected to find something like this. The numbers on her screen weren't just data anymore. They were a message from the distant past, waiting to be decoded. She turned off her computer and picked up her bag. Whatever secrets Mars was hiding, she was going to find them. But first, she needed sleep. The biggest discovery in human history could wait a few more hours. 3 weeks after their late-night discovery, Dr. Hae-jin Kim found herself in a different kind of laboratory. This one was filled with large screens showing detailed maps of Mars' surface. Dr. Jae-ho Park, the archaeologist she was now working with, pointed to several strange shapes on one of the screens. "These structures are not natural," he said, moving his finger across the image. "We thought they were just unusual rock formations, But after your atmospheric discovery, we looked at them again. He-Jin leaned closer to the screen. The shapes were perfect circles and squares, too regular to be made by nature. They formed patterns across the Martian surface, each one exactly 5 kilometers apart. "How did we miss these before?" she asked. "We didn't miss them," Jai-Ho explained. "We just didn't know what we were looking at. Most of these structures are buried under millions of years of Martian dust. But look what happens when we use ground-penetrating radar." He pressed a button, and the image changed. Now He-Jin could see what was hidden under the surface. Her mouth fell open in surprise. Below the dust were huge mechanical structures, each one connected to the others by a network of tunnels. "They're atmospheric processors," she whispered. "Machines for changing the air of an entire planet." Jai-Ho nodded. "And they're still there, just waiting under the dust. Some of them go down more than 10 kilometers into the planet." The door opened, and Du-Yun walked in carrying a tablet. "Dr. Kim, you need to see this," he said, his voice excited. "We found energy readings coming from one of the structures." He-Jin took the tablet and studied the numbers. They were very weak, but they were definitely there. Something in one of those ancient machines was still running after millions of years. "Where is this reading coming from?" she asked. Du-Yun pointed to a spot on the big screen. "This one, in Valles Marineris. It's the biggest structure we've found so far." Jai-Ho zoomed in on the location. The structure was massive, covering several square kilometers under the Martian surface. The energy reading was coming from its center. "We need to go there," He-Jin said. "These readings match the atmospheric patterns perfectly. Whatever changed Mars' atmosphere, the answer is in that structure. The International Space Agency won't approve an expedition without more evidence," Jai-Ho said. "We need to prove there's something worth finding." He-Jin thought for a moment, then turned to Du-Yun. "Can you increase the power of the radar scan? Maybe we can see more detail inside the structure." Du-Yun nodded and went to work at a computer. The image on the screen began to change as more powerful radar waves penetrated deeper into the Martian surface. Suddenly, all three of them gasped. Inside the structure, they could now see rows and rows of large objects, each one about the size of a car. "Are those?" Du-Yun started to ask. "Storage pods," He-Jin finished. "Thousands of them. And look." She pointed to one pod that showed up differently on the scan. "This one is giving off the energy reading. It's still active." Jai-Ho was already reaching for his phone. "I'm calling Director Park. When he sees this, he'll have to approve an expedition." He-Jin kept staring at the screen, especially at the active pod. What was inside it? Who had built all of this? And most importantly, why had they left? She had a feeling they were going to find out soon. The evidence was too strong to ignore now. Somewhere in that ancient structure lay the answers to one of the biggest mysteries in human history. Who had transformed Mars? And why had they made its atmosphere so different from Earth's? As Jai-Ho talked on the phone, and Du-Yun continued to scan the structure, He-Jin couldn't help but smile. Soon, they would be the first humans to set foot in that ancient place. Soon, they would know the truth. The meeting room at the Korean Space Research Institute was filled with important people. Scientists from 12 different countries sat around the large table, all looking at Dr. He-Jin Kim. On the screens behind her, images of the Martian structure and its energy readings filled the wall. "The active pod is using quantum energy," He-Jin explained, pointing to the latest data. "Dr. Du-Yun Lee confirmed this yesterday. This is not human technology. It's far more advanced than anything we have." Du-Yun stood up next to her. "The energy signature matches our theoretical models for suspended animation systems. Something inside that pod is alive, and it has been for millions of years." The room was silent for a moment. Then Dr. Anna Martinez, the head of the International First Contact Committee, spoke up. "You understand what you're suggesting. If you're right, we need to activate the First Contact Protocol immediately." He-Jin nodded. She knew this was coming. The first contact protocol was created 10 years ago for exactly this situation, finding evidence of intelligent alien life. No one had ever needed to use it before. What exactly does the protocol require? Dr. Jaho Park asked from his seat. Dr. Martinez opened a folder in front of her. First, we form an international team. Second, we prepare for all possible outcomes, including hostile ones. Third, we make contact only under controlled conditions. Hostile? He-Jin asked. The builders of this facility changed Mars' atmosphere to be more like Earth's. That doesn't seem hostile. We can't take chances, Dr. Martinez said firmly. This could be the most important moment in human history. We must be careful. Director Park cleared his throat. I suggest we put Dr. Kim in charge of the science team. She made the initial discovery, and she understands the atmospheric changes better than anyone. Agreed, Dr. Martinez said. But we need a military presence as well. Commander Sun Mei-Kang has experience with deep space missions. She'll lead the security team. A tall woman in a Space Force uniform stood up. He-Jin recognized Commander Kang from news reports about the Mars base construction project. The commander looked straight at He-Jin. Dr. Kim, how soon can your team be ready to leave for Mars? We can be ready in 2 weeks, He-Jin said. The new Mars shuttle is already being prepared. We'll need special equipment to study the pod, but Du-Yun has designed everything we need. 2 weeks it is, Commander Kang said. We'll launch on October 15th. Dr. Martinez, will that give you enough time to prepare the first contact procedures? Dr. Martinez nodded. Yes, but remember, no one opens that pod without my direct authorization. We follow the protocol exactly. After the meeting, He-Jin stood looking out the window at the bright afternoon sky. Somewhere up there, past the blue of Earth's atmosphere, an ancient secret was waiting. In 2 weeks, she would be on her way to find it. Du-Yun walked up beside her. Are you nervous? He asked. A little, she admitted. We're about to meet something that was old when humans were still learning to make fire. What do you say to a being that ancient? Maybe they'll be the ones who are nervous, Du-Yun suggested. After all, we've grown up a lot since they left their message. We built computers, went to space, and found them. That's not bad for a young species. He-Jin smiled. He had a point. Whatever they found in that pod, humanity had earned the right to be there. They had solved the puzzle and followed the clues. Now it was time to meet the ones who had left those clues behind. She just hoped they would be happy to see us. The Martian dust storm had finally cleared. Dr. He-Jin Kim looked through the rover's front window at the flat red plain ahead. Somewhere beneath that dusty surface lay the ancient facility they had traveled so far to find. Commander Sun Mei-Kang checked the navigation screen. We're right on top of it, she said. Ground-penetrating radar shows the main entrance should be 50 meters ahead. The rover moved slowly forward. Its 6 large wheels left deep tracks in the red soil. He-Jin watched the sensor readings carefully. After 3 weeks of space travel and 2 days driving across Mars' surface, they were finally here. Stop, Du-Yun called from his station. I'm picking up a signal. Something just activated under the surface. The rover came to a halt. Through the thick windows, He-Jin saw the ground in front of them begin to move. Red dust fell away as a large metal door slowly opened in the Martian surface. It was easily big enough for their rover to drive through. It recognized our presence, He-Jin said quietly. After millions of years, it still works. Commander Kang spoke into her radio. Base, this is Exploration Team 1. We have found an entrance to the facility. It appears to have opened automatically, requesting permission to proceed. Dr. Martinez's voice came back through the radio. Permission granted. Remember the protocol. No direct contact without authorization. The rover's lights came on as they drove down into the dark entrance. The tunnel sloped gently downward, its walls smooth and covered in strange symbols. He-Jin's cameras recorded everything. After 5 minutes of driving, they entered a vast underground chamber. Their lights showed rows and rows of large metal pods, exactly like they had seen in the radar images. But now they could see them clearly. Each pod was the size of a small room, covered in the same strange symbols as the walls. There must be thousands of them, Du Yun whispered. Commander Kang checked her instruments. The active pod is showing up on our sensors. It's in the center of the chamber. They drove carefully between the rows of silent pods. He-Jin noticed that some had clear sections where she could see inside. They were empty. Finally, they'd reached the center of the chamber. One pod looked different from the others. It gave off a soft blue light, and He-Jin could see something through its clear front panel. "There's someone in there," she said, her voice shaking a little. The team put on their Mars suits and went outside the rover. Even through the suits, He-Jin could feel that the chamber had air. The ancient machines were still working, keeping this place ready after all this time. They approached the glowing pod carefully. Through the clear panel, He-Jin could see a sleeping figure. It looked almost human, but not quite. Its skin had a slight blue tint, and its features were just different enough to seem alien. "Life signs are stable," Du Yun reported, checking his instruments. "The pod is keeping them in perfect suspended animation." Commander Kang called base again. "We've found the active pod. There is a living being inside," requesting permission to begin revival procedures. There was a long pause before Dr. Martinez answered. "Permission granted. But be careful. We're about to meet someone who can tell us why Mars is so different from Earth. Make sure we make a good first impression." He-Jin looked at the sleeping figure. Soon, they would wake this ancient being. Soon, they would learn the truth about Mars' mysterious atmosphere. She just hoped they were ready for the answers. The revival process took 6 hours. Dr. He-Jin Kim and her team watched as the pod slowly brought its occupant back to life. The blue light inside grew brighter, and the strange symbols on the pod's surface began to glow. "Life signs are getting stronger," Du Yun said, checking his instruments. "Brain activity is increasing. They're waking up." Commander Kang kept her hand near her sidearm, but He-Jin didn't think they would need weapons. Anyone who could build something this advanced probably didn't want to hurt them. The pod's clear panel suddenly became cloudy, then cleared again. The figure inside moved slightly. Then their eyes opened. He-Jin held her breath as the panel slid open. The being sat up slowly, looking at each of them with large dark eyes. Then, to everyone's surprise, they smiled. "Hello," they said in perfect Korean. "I am Mireille. I have been waiting a very long time for you to find me." He-Jin stepped forward. "You speak our language." "I learned it while I was sleeping," Mireille explained. "My pod connected to your global information network many years ago. I know all Earth languages now." They stood up carefully, their movements graceful despite millions of years of sleep. "Why did you change Mars' atmosphere?" He-Jin asked. It was the question that had brought them here. Mireille's expression became serious. "My people, the builders, needed to understand how atmospheres work. We knew something was coming, something that would threaten Earth. Mars was our laboratory, where we tested our ideas." "What's coming?" Commander Kang asked sharply. "A massive solar flare," Mireille said. "One big enough to strip away Earth's atmosphere. We saw it approaching in our long-range scans. That's why we had to work quickly." Du Yun looked confused. "But you changed Mars' atmosphere millions of years ago. Why wait so long to warn us?" Mireille walked to one of the chamber's walls and touched it. A large screen appeared, showing complex diagrams. "We needed you to be ready. If we had told your ancestors about this, they wouldn't have understood. They needed to develop space travel and advanced science first. Finding me was a test. You passed. Where are the rest of your people?" He-Jin asked, looking at the empty pods around them. "They left," Mireille said softly. "The flare was coming sooner than we thought." They had to go to safety, but I stayed behind to help Earth when the time came. And now you're here. Commander Kang stepped forward. How long do we have? The flare will reach Earth in 6 months, Mayray said. But don't worry. That's why we changed Mars' atmosphere. Everything you need to protect Earth is right here in this facility. My people built a planetary shield system. Mars was the test run. Now we can use what we learned to save Earth. Hejin looked at the diagrams on the wall. They showed plans for massive machines that could protect a planet's atmosphere. The builders hadn't just changed Mars for fun. They had used it to perfect the technology Earth would need. Will you help us? Hejin asked Mayray. The ancient guardian smiled again. That's why I stayed behind. Together, we're going to save your world. But first, you need to understand how these machines work. Let me show you what my people built here on Mars. As Mayray began to explain the builder's technology, Hejin realized that finding the truth about Mars' atmosphere had been just the beginning. Now they had to use that knowledge to save Earth. The next day, Mayray led the team deeper into the underground facility. They walked through long tunnels filled with humming machines. The ancient technology still worked perfectly after millions of years. Mars was more than just a test, Mayray explained as they walked. It was also our backup plan. We stored all our knowledge here, everything humanity would need to protect itself. Hejin looked at the walls of machinery around them. Why didn't you just build the shield on Earth directly? Mayray stopped walking and turned to face them. Earth's magnetic field was too strong. We needed a planet with a weaker field to test our machines. Mars was perfect. Here, we could make mistakes without risking your world. Commander Kang frowned. Did you make mistakes? Many, Mayray admitted. The first few attempts to change Mars' atmosphere failed completely. That's why we kept trying until we got it right. Now we know exactly what works and what doesn't. Du Yun was recording everything on his tablet. But why make Mars' atmosphere so different from Earth's? Why not make it exactly the same? Mayray touched one of the machines, and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed both planets side by side. We made Mars' atmosphere special on purpose. It's designed to react differently to solar radiation. When the flare hits, Mars will absorb energy that would otherwise reach Earth. It will act as a shield. Hejin's eyes widened. So Mars isn't just a test site. It's part of Earth's protection system. Exactly, Mayray said. The builders changed Mars to protect Earth. The different atmosphere wasn't a mistake. It was the plan all along. They reached a large round room filled with glowing screens. Mayray waved her hand, and the screens came to life. They showed detailed plans for massive machines. These are the shield generators, she explained. We built them here first, tested them, and improved them. Now they're ready to be built on Earth. Commander Kang studied the plans carefully. Can we build all this in 6 months? We have to, Mayray said. The flare is coming, and Earth needs to be ready. But don't worry, we left you everything you need. Tools, plans, and materials are all here. The builders thought of everything. Hejin walked around the room, looking at all the screens. Each one showed a different part of the protection system. It was the most advanced technology she had ever seen. What happened to your people? She asked quietly. Why didn't they come back? Mayray's face showed sadness for the first time. The flare was part of a larger disaster. They had to go far away to survive, but they wanted to help Earth before they left. That's why they chose me to stay behind. I'm not just a guardian, I'm their gift to humanity. Du Yun looked up from his tablet. Will you teach us everything they knew? Yes, Mayray said, but first, we need to focus on the shield. We have 6 months to protect your world. After that, I'll help humanity learn everything the builders left behind. It's time for your species to take the next step forward. Hejin realized that finding Mayray hadn't just solved the mystery of Mars' atmosphere. It had given humanity a chance to survive and grow. The builders had left them a wonderful gift. if they could use it in time. 5 months had passed since they found Mirai. The ancient guardian stood in Earth's largest space control center, watching screens that showed construction happening in orbit. Dozens of shield generators floated in space, being built by teams of astronauts. Dr. Hye-jin Kim walked up beside Mirai. "The last generator will be finished today," she said. "Taiwan says the power systems are ready for testing." Taiwan Cho was their lead engineer. He had spent months studying the builder's technology and adapting it to work with Earth's modern systems. Now he sat at a large control panel, checking endless streams of data. "The magnetic field adjustments are complete," he reported. "We can start powering up the shield network whenever you're ready." Commander Kang entered the room with Du Yun. They had just returned from inspecting the Mars facility, which would work together with Earth's new shields to protect both planets. "The solar flare will hit in 3 weeks," Du Yun said, showing them the latest readings. "Its power is even stronger than we first thought." Mirai nodded seriously. "Then we must test the shield today. We cannot wait any longer." Hye-jin looked at the screens showing their work. Shield generators stretched around Earth in a perfect network. Each one was built using the builder's plans, but modified to work with Earth's technology. It had taken thousands of people working day and night to build them in time. "Begin power-up sequence," Commander Kang ordered. Taiwan's fingers moved across his control panel. One by one, the shield generators started to glow with blue light, just like Mirai's pod had when they first found her. "Power levels at 20%, Taiwan reported. All systems normal." 40%, he said a few minutes later. "The magnetic field is responding exactly as planned." The room was silent except for the hum of computers. Everyone watched as the power levels slowly rose. This was the moment that would decide if they could save Earth or not. 60%, 80%. Suddenly, warning lights began flashing. One of the generators was showing signs of stress. "The power connection is failing," Taiwan said, his voice tense. "Generator 7 isn't handling the load." Mirai moved quickly to his control panel. "The energy flow is wrong," she said. "It needs to pulse, not stream." Like this, her hands moved across the controls, adjusting settings faster than human eyes could follow. The warning lights stopped flashing. The generator stabilized. "Power at 100%, Taiwan announced. "Shield network is fully operational." Everyone in the room cheered. Hye-jin looked at the main screen, which showed a beautiful web of energy surrounding Earth. Combined with Mars' specially designed atmosphere, it would be enough to protect both planets from the coming flare. "Your people would be proud," she said to Mirai. "We did it." Mirai smiled. "The builders gave you the knowledge, but you did the work. You built this in 6 months, something that took my people years to perfect on Mars. Maybe they would be learning from you now, if they were here." Commander Kang stepped forward. "We should celebrate tonight. Tomorrow we start preparing for the flare itself." Hye-jin looked around the room at her team. They had solved the mystery of Mars' atmosphere and used that knowledge to save Earth. Whatever the solar flare brought, they were ready for it. The day of the solar flare arrived. In the control center, Dr. Hye-jin Kim watched the massive wave of energy approaching Earth on the main screen. It was bigger than anything humans had ever seen before. "Flare will reach Mars in 5 minutes, Du Yun announced. Everyone watched as the energy wave neared the red planet. Mirai stood calmly beside them. "Watch carefully," she said. "You're about to see why we made Mars' atmosphere so different from Earth's." When the flare hit Mars, something amazing happened. The planet's special atmosphere began to glow with beautiful colors. It was absorbing the deadly energy, just as the builders had planned millions of years ago. "Mars' atmosphere is working perfectly," Taiwan reported from his station. "It's reducing the flare's power by 60%. Commander Kang nodded. "Prepare Earth's shield network. The flare will reach us in 10 minutes. Hye-jin looked at their own protective system. The shield generators circled Earth like a net of stars, ready to defend their world. Everything they had built in the past 6 months was about to be tested. "Flare approaching Earth now," Du Yun said. The room grew quiet. When the energy wave hit Earth's shields, the generators glowed bright blue. The network of energy they created worked exactly as planned, protecting the planet from harm. "All shields holding steady," Taiwan reported. "The combination of Mars' atmosphere and our generators is working. Both planets are safe." The room erupted in cheers. People hugged each other and cried with joy. They had done it. They had saved both worlds. Later that evening, He-Jin found Mi-Ray looking out a window at the night sky. Mars was visible as a red dot among the stars. "What happens now?" He-Jin asked. Mi-Ray smiled. "Now the real work begins. The builders left so much knowledge in their facility on Mars. They wanted humanity to have it all: how to build better spaceships, how to make clean energy, how to heal the environment. They believed you were ready to take the next step into space. Will you stay to help us learn?" He-Jin asked. "Yes," Mi-Ray said. "The builders chose me because I was a teacher. They'd wanted someone who would enjoy watching humanity grow and learn. And you've already surprised me with how quickly you understand things." Taiwan joined them at the window. "We could start by fixing Mars' atmosphere completely," he suggested. "Make it more like Earth's, now that we don't need it to be different anymore." "That's a wonderful first project," Mi-Ray agreed. "It would give humans a second home in the solar system. The builders would like that." He-Jin looked up at the red planet. The mystery of its strange atmosphere had led them to an amazing discovery. Now that same atmosphere had helped save Earth, and soon they would change it again, this time to welcome human life. "We still don't know where the builders went," she said quietly. "Maybe someday you'll find them too," Mi-Ray said. "They would be proud to see how far you've come. You solved their puzzle, used their knowledge wisely, and proved you were ready for the next step. The future is yours now." As they stood together looking at the stars, He-Jin thought about everything that had happened since she first noticed those strange patterns in Mars' atmosphere. It hadn't just been a scientific mystery. It had been an invitation to join a larger community among the stars, and humanity had proved they were ready to accept that invitation.